Hello. As far as I can see, we have a good connection. Please tell me whether you see me and hear me well. Specifically in live streaming channel. We've got 1+. Cool. Please add more confirmations and we will be good to go. Okay, while I'm preparing environment, you can share with me your expressions, whether this task was hard or it was easy for you. It shouldn't be so hard because you previously mastered that APIs that you've used here, but probably there was something that was difficult to implement. Do you have some difficulties, problems with pure Node.js? I will put chat on the screen. Okay. Pavel is typing something, we will read it later. Let's take a look at the homework we have today for review. It's homework from student with nickname Eternal Rival. So here you can see pull request. It contains all necessary attributes. It has links to task, deadline date, and self-check. Also, it contains some nodes. It contains evaluated score points. And it also contains information that forfeits are not applicable for this case. Let's probably briefly check functional scope, and after that let's take a look at the code. So first of all, before we proceed, we need to check whether we have commits after deadline. Deadline was today, but let's check whether we have commits after deadline, because in this case we have to apply this forfeit. And as we can see, latest commits were added 2 days ago, so this forfeit is not applicable. Okay, cool. I already cloned students repository, and let's not forget to switch from main branch to development branch. And we have here some informations about how to run application, how to handle white spaces, etc. We have some examples of usage for some commands and so on. By the way, as far as I can see, student a little bit extended some comments, because he, for example, allows, he or she, I'm not sure, student allows us to use multiple comments for OS, I mean multiple arguments for OS comment. We will also check this, and let's probably start. First of all, we need to check that application can be started using provided start command. It has to work this way. We need to type npm run start and provide a username under the flag, and it should be used for greeting and for escape messages. Let's probably start npm run start, and let's provide username. Username is equal to sim, for example. Oh, we have colorized input. Nice. We have greeting. We have message about current directory, and yes, we start from our user default working directory. It's slash users and system username on Mac. By default on Windows it will look pretty same, except the fact that it will be system drive, but okay, it seems to be working correctly. What else we have here? Let's probably try to change our direction. Let's try to go to our current file. What do we have here? Let's go to JS, reviews, task 2. Interesting. Probably I have some typo here. It's not reviews, it's review. Yes. Okay, let's probably go step by step. Review, cd task 2. But we will check additionally whether we are able to go to the any directory, not only to closest one. Okay, and let's go inside to the Node file manager folder. Now our virtual working directory is synchronized with real one, so we can perform our actions on files here and take a look here and check whether it matches what we do in real file system and in virtual file system. So we have score evaluation for assignments. Let's check what do we need to implement here. We already checked that application accepts username and prints proper message. Let's check that exit on Ctrl+C works. Yes. Application printed my username, and we have this goodbye message, and also it has to work using .exit input. Yes, it works the same way. Okay, let's probably start to perform operation on non-existing file, for example read it. Let's try to read some file which does not exist in our working directory. But first let's move to our working directory again. And let's try to read some non-existent file. Okay. Operation failed. And as far as we can see, operation failed doesn't crash application. We can provide more input and it will work fine. Okay, let's check navigation. let's probably, we already checked the cd command, and we checked that we can apply some custom paths. By the way, we can check a case with white spaces, and student mentioned that it's covered by application logic. Let's create file with white spaces. And, for example, try to read it. We will put some content here. And as student mentioned, white spaces should be covered by usage of backslashes. Okay. Yes, it seems to be working. By the way, let's check what's about quotes. Maybe it also works as well. Nope, unfortunately it doesn't work, but the student provides support for white spaces. Okay, but as for me, this kind of notation would be a little bit better. Let's check other navigation commands as well. We are currently in Node File Manager folder. If we will go up, we will go to the upper directory again and again and again and again. And we shouldn't go upper than root folder, and we shouldn't see any errors. As far as you can see, it works well too. Let's go back to our previous folder. Let's check how lc command works. We have this table here, which contains name of the folder or file, and contains its type, its directory and file as well. And as far as I can see, it matches our files and directories correctly. As you remember, your Git repository initialization creates a hidden Git folder. We can see it here, but of course we can go into it and check what's inside. This is internal Git folder, which works as well. So navigation seems to be working okay. Let's try to read the file and put its content into console. For example, let's extend our file with few lines of content, and let's simplify it to not get white spaces there. It's sum.txt. Yes, file content is printed into console. Let's try to create empty file. It should be done using command add with file name. Add empty.js. Yes, it's created. We need to be able to rename file. Let's provide path to file and new file name. Let's rename it to empty.md. Yes, it works. Let's check that it works not only in current directory. Let's move it to src and probably try to rename it again. src empty.md. Try to rename it back. tjs. Yes, it works. Let's try to copy file. And file should be copied with previous file name and extension, and we just have to provide path to new directory. Let's create new directory here at the top level. Let's name it some folder and try to copy file from this src folder. We need what we have here, except extension, and let's provide path to this folder. Yes, it seems to be working correctly. Operation is failed because we already have this file here. Let's try to do it again. Yes, file is copied with its contents. Let's try to move file. It should work as copy, but it should remove file from original source. Yes, it was removed here and put here. And also we should be able to simply remove file. As far as you can see, there are a lot of stuff that can be reused across different commands, so it would be nice to create some services that you will reuse in your application, and multiple services would be better. Some folder c.js. Yes, it was removed. Also, let's try to get all those OS stuff. Oh, it's printed correctly, not only by displaying a new line symbol, which is displayed as white space, but it was not necessary. You could just show it, but this one is kind of better. Let's try to take a look at CPUs. Yes, home dir. System username. Architecture. Yes, it seems to be correct. Let's also try to place different commands in a row. How output will look like. It will just be executed in the same order as we provided it. Okay. Also, let's try to calculate some hash from our file. Hash sum.txt. We have this hex hash. Let's also try to change file content and ensure that hash has changed. Yes, it changed. Let's try to compress it. Sum.txt, and let's provide path to destination, some folder, sum.gz probably. And let's try to decompress this file. Let's remove original file, and let's try to decompress it to our main folder. Operation failed for some reason. Not sure why. Probably when we will take a look at the code, we will find out why it happens. Okay, maybe we have problem here. Decompress. Do you see something? It was really interesting to create our own CLI tool. Didn't know it's possible. It's not so. Yeah, it's not so difficult. No necessary quotes here. Should we check positive cases or not at all? Not sure what is this question related to, but yes, you have to check. For example, you have to check that pass is handled correctly for all commands, but if you noted that, for example, white spaces are not handled, I propose you to decrease points only for cd command in order to not remove a lot of score for criteria that are mentioned partially in different tasks. Quotation marks can be used in file merge cases. Folders names on Linux merge cases. CPU's frequency looks broken. It looks broken because it's broken on MacBook. It's expected. If you will find this, I'm not sure how to fix it. Probably we need some debugging here, but but if you will notice stuff like this and you check work that was implemented on Windows, just I would propose you to provide full score because it works correctly. It was not a scope of this task to check your system and get CPU's frequency depending on it. Two spaces probably. Yeah, it seems that you're right. But yeah, it was my mistake. I provided two spaces and it seems to be working. Thank you. Okay, let's check what was not covered from functional scope. Okay, it seems that compressed file and the compressed file works okay. For this stuff, we need to check codes. What's about ECMAScript modules? Yes, it seems to be implemented in ECMAScript modules because we have files with extension JS and we have this type module in package.json. Code base is separated, at least 7 modules. Okay, let's see. Yes, we obviously have more than 7 modules, so this criteria is passed. And also any external tools libraries, we don't see any dependencies, so it seems that this criteria is also met. Do you have any questions related to the check? By the way, OS command accepted, OS flag and ignored. Yeah, you know you can strict validation of input was not in the scope of this task. Of course, you can throw error if your user will provide you invalid input or extra parameters that are not supported. But if you will not do this in scope of this task, it will be fine. Shouldn't the compression be the broadly algorithm? It's broadly inside, I suppose. I only provided a different extension in file name. It shouldn't be considered as invalid input. In real world, of course, yes. In scope of our task and criteria, it's not. So don't be so strict here. Okay, let's probably take a look at the code. What happens when we run start script? It runs node src folder, and of course, if we try to run something from folder, it will take a look at index.js file. So this is our entry point. We can see that we have some layers of abstraction here, because we have a class which represents application. We provide process there, app controller, and some services. And after that, we provide a command run, which runs our application. So let's dive into app class. What do we have here? We have implementation of constructor that accepts everything. We parse initial arguments that were provided via a command line interface on start of the application. We will check how it's done. Also, we initialize state service. After that, we set few params there. Probably it's used somehow. And we provide here app controller that is used that uses services that we provided from upper scope and its initialized instances. I mean, the services that perform operations on some commands. And we provide created state service deeper. Okay, let's take a look on how we parse process args. Of course, you have a lot of ready-made libraries like argv or commander or some different libraries, but I just wanted you to implement it manually because it's quite easy. You only have some like array of stuff that you provided from your console on run. So no magic here. We just get these values. After that, we check if it starts with prefix, we proceed. If it's not, prefix is this two dashes prefix for our commands. And if it's not, we just move on. Okay, it seems to be pretty straightforward. What else do we have here? Because args is a map, as you noticed, we can get some value by key, or we have default fallback. It should work like this. If we will run our application without provision of username, we will see hello username. Okay, it seems to be fine. Just in case, let's go back to our folder. If we will try to change something. Okay. We also set state service. We also set home directory and we set username to state service as well. State service seems to be using map2. Okay, but let's take a look at this later. We have command run here, and I'm not sure what is the purpose of this. because it doesn't seem to be used. What happens if we will just remove it? Should nothing. Okay, I'm not sure, is it just a placeholder or something, but probably this method should initialize some stuff and run application, for example, run a readline instance or something else. Looks a little bit weird, but it's okay. Let's take a look at the app controller. It accepts process as well. Probably we could initialize our services in that run command, by the way, in order to do something inside of this method. Okay, we accepted instances of services. Each service has method init, and we run init for all these services. Also, we have commands map, which maps our commands to services stuff. Okay. What else happens here? Perhaps we shouldn't duplicate this logic here because we already provided default value here. If we don't have it at this moment, we will have fallback here. So this is excessive. We don't need this kind of duplication. I would also propose to split it a little bit. What happens next? We get current working directory from navigation service. Navigation service.cvd. We use method build message that is used to print value to console with these colors that we've seen. We will take a look later on how it works, how this colorized utility works. By the way, it works very easy. We just have to provide desired colors codes before and after our code fragments that we need to colorize. But we will take a look at this later. What else do we have here? We have handle input, which is used in REPL service. Input is what we will receive in our internal prompt, because this is not a real terminal prompt, is our REPL terminal, and what we put here will be accepted by handle input handler. We trim input. If input is empty, we do nothing. And it should work with multiple spaces the same way, yes. And after that, we split our input by white spaces, because valid input contains comment and additional parameters split by white spaces. After that, we get command from map. For example, if we will provide command OS, we will receive this handler from map. What happens next? If handler is defined, so if we have a known handler, we await its execution. And if handler is not defined, we throw new error. And if error is thrown, we colorized our error with red color and print operation failed. This is why operation failed here. Sorry, not operation failed, it's invalid input error. And after that, we print current working directory. We have exit message here. And we provide exit message in REPL service as well. Probably as it's quite static, probably we don't need to provide all this stuff there. Maybe we could initialize it inside of REPL service, but we reuse username here. Anyway, we have state service here, so probably it's also fine. Okay. While we are here, let's take a look at how colorize works. This is just function that receives color and text, and if we have some text to colorize, we put it into apply color function, which receives color by name and receives code for this color. And after that, this is how we colorize our text. We just note that text after this color code should be colorized, and after that we use default color. Also, I'm not sure that everything is used here. Let's check what we use inside colorize. We use red, cyan, green, purple, and that's all. So probably what we don't use here, we don't need to have here. Cyan, white, red, cyan, green, purple. Yes. Because to be honest, I don't like things that are not used in code. Okay. What else do we have here? Let's probably take a look at how we handle our input from our REPL terminal. We have class REPL service, which contains private property RL. It seems to be initialized with readline interface. So yes, we get create interface from readline. We provide input and output and its default procs input and output. We also have this handler, how we decorate our prompt. This is prompt for you from system to put something here. We can see that it's purple. It can look different. For example, if we provide here different text, we will see it there. But this one looks better. This file manager looks kind of beautiful. Okay, what do we have here? When you type something here, your readline emits event line, and you can subscribe on this using event emitter interface using method on, because readline instance is it inherits from event emitter, just like all stuff that can be subscribed in Node.js. So we handle input using handler defined here. This input passed here from upper scope, and after that we prompt user for an extra message. That's why when we receive some input, we have prompt here again. And what else we have here? We print initial message we print invitation message here and ask user for prompt immediately. And after that, we initialized our private property with our instance of readline interface. Okay. And on close method, we close readline, and this is what we have. Here we mapped exit command to REPL service close method. We use it here. It's good that you have layer of abstraction, that you have all the stuff related to work with this terminal here, and if we have question how something works, we just can go here and check. Okay. What else we have here? We have mappings for services, and let's probably take a look at navigation service, how it works. It's also class. It has init method. This state service is state service. What did we provide it here? Navigation service. Inside of app controller, we have instance of this service. This is how we try to inject our service state service inside of other services. Okay, perhaps this is to ensure that we have the same state service on inside of every service. Okay, let's go back to the navigation service. When we use function change directory, we check system, whether it's Windows or Unix system. Also, we check our path and resolve path using functionality from path module. Okay. After that, if we try to get access to the target path, and if it's directory, we use it as current working directory. If not, we throw error operation failed. By the way, in order not to duplicate this code, I would just create a custom error. For example, like operation failed error. Which extends default error, and you have this message here, and you will just have to throw your operation failed error. And you will not be forced to print the same message in multiple places. Okay. All other cases when we don't have our target destination, it's also covered here because we have this catch handler. By the way, it also could be extracted into layer of abstraction because you have pretty same logic for all services. If you have any error during execution, you need to print operation failed error. So probably you could decorate this stuff and add try catch on upper level that you try to execute your function, and if it throws, you catch this error and throw operation failed error. Okay, this is about change dir. Upper dir can reuse existing functionality with changing directory, because what you have to do when you change directory, you just what you have to do when you want to go to the upper dir, you just have to change directory to the upper directory. So yes, I would expect that you reuse it, and this is good. This is what I like, that you reuse this stuff. We have getters and setters for current working directory. To be honest, it works well, but probably it would be better. This is just code style that I prefer. I prefer avoid using getters and setters. Native getters and setters, and it's better to just have some methods that can be used because some implicit logic that when you access property, it's getter underneath and it executes some code, it may lead to errors. So in order to make this logic not so hidden, probably it would be better to have two methods like set current working directory and get current working directory. That's probably it. Okay. What else we have here? We have function list that uses read dir, and we have dir ends variable that contains dir end array, dir end entities. Sorry, not entities, instances array that we receive from read dir method, and also we map this method to what we need. If it's file, it's file. If it's directory, it's we print directory. If it's symbolic link, as far as I remember, this is used for links. And if we didn't found something correct, we just use empty line. Probably it would be better to use unknown as a fallback, because we are not sure what is it. And after that, we sort it by name and take a look that it's implemented correctly, because we can use locale compare for correct comparison of strings. And if they have the same type, then we after that we compare name. And after that we use console table, which is native Node.js API that prints this handsome table for us. Okay. Let's take a look at the chat. Use nest project structure. What is the purpose of empty run func? When I use similar application structure for frontend, I handle some ESLint Airbnb requirements in similar way. I'm pretty sure that if your linter tells you that you should have empty method, you should just change stuff in your linter and not not create empty method here. Don't create instance for side effects. Don't assign the unit first. Please examine what's the advantage of class over functions. You have here we can see some advantages because okay, we have this state service that is provided on initialization, and we reuse stuff from it in different methods. So yes, we have advantage here because all these methods are related to each other, and it would be inconvenient for us to put this stuff from arguments or to put it from closure. It's better to have it encapsulated on initialization and reuse it. This is, from my point of view, a correct example of usage for classes, except the fact that probably I would just provide this from constructor, because this initialization looks a little bit excessive. We simply assign stuff into this value for class, so probably we don't need to have this separated init method. In this kind of initialization can be done on instance creation. What else we have in chat? But classes has disadvantages as well, because if you need to use only one method from class and it's not really connected with other methods or some encapsulated state, it's better to split your class into several functions. If your functions, if your class methods are quite independent, it would be better to use those separated functions. So it has some advantages and disadvantages. Here is, as for me, a good example where you should use class, but you shouldn't use classes everywhere. If you can conveniently not use class, you probably shouldn't use it. Okay, let's move on. Let's take a look at how file service works. On initialization, we provide state service. Once again, this getter that is only a layer over state service get. By the way, if you use private stuff, I'm not sure that you use it outside of your method. Concatenate, file services, concatenate. Nope, you use it outside. Okay. Okay, this is handler for cat command. It returns new promise. Why do we return promise? Because we subscribe on events. It's asynchronous stuff. We want to resolve promise when we will handle end event from readable stream. No magic here. We just provide path to file. Then we create readable stream. After that, we subscribe on events, and on resolve we simply return resolved promise, and after we will handle error event, we reject this and have operation failed error. And we pipe a readable stream to process it out. That's why we see file content here. Okay, this is correct implementation. What else we have here? Add file. We check we resolve pass to file. We create writable stream with flag wx. Also, we subscribe on events of streams, because when our stream will finish writing, we will handle close event, and we immediately close this stream. By the way, I'm not sure that we had to use streams for creation of empty file, because it looks excessive. Yeah, you shouldn't use a writable stream. It looks too big. You just simply you could simply use file system API for this. But yes, it can be done using writable stream. If you will try to create writable stream with flex wx, your stream creation will not fail on files that is not exists, and your file will be created this way. But this construction is too big for this. Okay. What else we have here? Rename file. We parse passes to files. After that, we get file stats for our initial file that should be renamed. After that, we resolve. After that, we just add new file name to directory of src file. Probably I would extract it, because I don't like a lot of nested function calls. It's okay for functional programming, but it a little bit complicates reading. Dest folder name. It's result of call dir name over file path, which extracts path to directory. And after that, we resolve those two fragments, which creates a new file path for us. Okay, and if it's directory, we will not be able to rename it, or we will have operation failed error here. And we use fs rename from fs promises to do this. Okay. looks okay in general. Copy file. We resolve pass. After that, we get stats for source file and for destination pass to file. By the way, these steps should be performed in parallel because these operations can be done simultaneously. So we just have to do promise all here. We don't need to perform subsequent web requests here. What's next? Please consider to use curly braces. I mean, this one-liner is long. It would be better to increase readability this way. And here too. And by the way, you can just return this promise. You will get result when you will await these methods. Okay. Here we have some validation because if our source path is not file and our destination directory is not directory, we will reject this promise and we will reject it with error operation failed. And as we remember from handle input, we will just rethrow this error. By the way, probably here we just will colorize it. Perhaps I thought that we could put this operation failed error here, but we have two different kind of errors, so probably it's fine to have it at deeper level. What do we do when we copy file using streams? We simply create a readable stream, we put it to write stream, we pipe it, and we handle errors and handle close event, because on close we will resolve this promise. And it means that file is copied and method finished execution. Move file reuses existing copy file and remove file. It's fine. Remove file uses rm method from fs that we already seen. By the way, I see some duplication here. In each method we have this parse pass, we have this resolve. Probably we could create some helper method and reuse it across this class. State service gets. Here we just use class for reusing of this encapsulated current working directory and reuse some methods. Still looks okay to have such class. Let's take a look at the chat. What do we have here? Have some implementation. Try to use event emitter next time. I think it's better than map. You will anyway have to have this mapping because you will need to provide some payload in event and map this payload to methods that should be executed. This is just a way to pass stuff. If I use constructor, I should create instances in a specific order. It was easiest for me to create them in one place and then initialize them in the right places. But you anyway created instances in specific order, right? You created state service first, and after that you created these instances after you created state service. So okay. Anyway, let's move on. Lol, I did use switch on readline, so switch on readline is also okay, but you will have to map stuff there. But map will allow you to avoid some boilerplate. But switch would work from functional point of view. It would work okay too. Okay. We've already seen REPL service and file service. Let's take a look at hash service, whether we have streams there. Hash, create hash, parse pass list. Parse pass list. We have pass to file. We create readable stream to get content from file, and we handle it on data event, and we just do hash update chunk. I meant that you could use, as far as I remember, we have ready-made stream for this purpose. You could just reuse this transform stream from crypto. Sorry, let's make small pause. Let's continue. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's little pause. I'm here. Yes. Okay, cool. By the way, I meant that we could use hash and stream because we can have another layer of abstraction. For example, instead of doing this stuff. Hmm. Instead of doing this stuff on handling of readable stream, we could just create our own stream that transform stream and pipe it into it. But okay, probably we will not spend time on implementation at this moment. Okay, if it's performed this way, it can be counted as usage of Streams API. And as far as I checked, we don't have ready-made stream for this purpose, so looks okay. Fine. Let's check next service. We've already seen navigation service. Let's check OS service. We have this commands map inside of the service. How we handle OS command. Um, we parse arguments. This is how we handle multiple commands. We just parse arguments, and for each argument we execute our command if we have one. Default system EOL. We use JSON stringify here. CPU's list, CPU speed. Probably if you would like to do it more reliable, you just had to check platform here in order if this is handled differently on Windows and on Unix, but it's acceptable. Okay. Home directory, system username. Yes, we have all these methods in OS module, so we only need to print it out. It's the most easiest stuff. What else do we have? We have zip service, which is used for compress and decompress. And yes, probably I mixed hash up with this kind of API because here we have compress and decompress, and here we have ready-made streams. By the way, as I mentioned, it's not the best way to implement this stuff because you have to multiply those error handlers. It would be better to just use pipeline. And we can have one error handler for this purpose. We can just put here read stream, our broadly stream, write stream, and we can just have this error callback. Okay. And the compress word works the same way. It just uses opposite stream, which is also transform stream, and it's probably the same. By the way, I think we could create additional layer of abstraction because we could just only thing that differs here is just what we use here, what transform stream is used. So we could just provide some flag and not duplicate this stuff, because in all cases we have this source path, we have path to destination, we parse it somehow, we create readable, writable streams, and we pipe it with transform stream. Only transform stream is different. So probably these methods are duplicated and could be extracted into extra method. Okay. And what else we didn't check? We didn't check how state works. State is a static class. It's not static, by the way. It's not fully static because we have some properties for instances. And this is how singleton is implemented, because if we don't have a state service instance using nullish-less operator, we provide it here, and if we have it, we return existing instance, but probably probably it's kind of hard to read because it's not obvious for most people what happens here. How do you like this code? Let's ask for this in chat. Yeah, there are two versions of pipeline. One pipeline can be awaited, one simple way export instance. Yes. We, for example, can initialize instance here, const state service, new state service, and export it here, and do not export class. So if we will use it this way, it will always be one instance. And if we want singleton for some case, probably I would write it a little bit different. This looks pretty short and beautiful from some point of view, but to be honest, for me, this would look a little bit more readable. If we don't have instance, we assign this value, and if we have it, we just return it. A great idea to use map, should work faster than switch. Also readability increased. Yeah, it's good to use newer possibilities of JavaScript. I mean, it's good to use set map. Also, if you need cache, you can use Wix. I mean, cache as extra storage, extra temporal storage. You can use Wix set and Wix map. I would propose you to take a look at them too. Yes, okay. What we didn't check, probably we checked everything except some utility functions. We already took a look at colorize function, parse arguments, we split string by white spaces, filter it. We have only stuff that starts with prefix. We already took a look at this. Parse process args, we already took a look at this. Okay. Okay. It seems fine to me, except the fact that probably that probably we shouldn't drill down this process because it's globally available and it's the same. It's already will be the same on the all levels. So I'm not sure why did you pass it down. Also, what else? Initialization of state service here. Parse process args, username. Yes, we had some duplication with those fallbacks, and I have feeling that the time up to time we have mixed this logic because okay, why do we get it twice? We get it here, and after that we again get it here. Probably we could just provide it at down level and get it once. What else? I'm not sure that this should be here once again. Probably this is not application, this is not commands level stuff. This is application level stuff because you use it. This is about main flow and how you handle it. But okay, having it here is definitely better than having it in line in corresponding commands. What else? If we don't expose build message, so it probably could be a private method in pure JavaScript or private method in TypeScript. What is good? It's very good that we have levels of abstraction. We have index.js file which imports everything we need, and it initialized application module which initialize controller and services. Probably, by the way, I would make this layer separation is I would like to see these layers more separated. Probably I would just have initialization of the services inside of the controller because app shouldn't know about services. But if you try to implement it in some style like dependency injection, it's also fine. It seems that all stuff is implemented correctly in scope of functional requirements. Streams API is used. Probably somewhere you could use async await instead of promise, but for subscription on events it's okay. Because you cannot simply await until you will have corresponding event. It doesn't work that way in most cases. That's probably it regarding this work. This is a good homework and it looks cool. It seems that classes here are not excessive and this approach can be used. Okay, let's probably move on to our next homeworks. Encapsulate everything you see. But simple dictionary is so cute and you haven't any problems with JSON. Map is better than simple dictionary. It inspires me to rewrite it everything later on. Yeah. You will take a look at your code later and you will want to rewrite it. This is normal process. Okay. Your next task is simple CRUD. I changed implementation a little bit because I explicitly mentioned that you don't have to rely on logical CPU cores number. Instead, you have to rely on available for available parallel executions. Sorry, for available parallelism, and I explicitly mentioned that you have to have one master process and the number of workers equal to available parallelism minus one on the host machine. I still left separation on ports because yes, in real world workers would share the same port, but this separation will allow you to better understand how to check it. And it will make testing that all workers have the same state easier for you, because you don't have to explicitly send values to different workers and check what worker returned request. So this is just some synthetic example, but it will not prevent you from understanding how it should work. So what you have to do? You have to implement a simple API that will use pure Node.js again. And also you can use TypeScript here for extra points. And after this task, we will have one more task related to WebSockets, which can be implemented using TypeScript or JavaScript. After this task, we will switch fully to TypeScript. So please, if you are not familiar with it yet, it's time to take a look at TypeScript and related stuff, because later it will be mandatory. Your API should handle requests to only one entity. It's users. You can get all users, you can get user by ID, you can use post request to create a new user, you can put request to update user, and you can use delete request to delete user. And all possible cases are mentioned here with status codes and responses, and with logic when this response should be received. Also, users are represented as objects with properties ID, its unique identifier, which is generated on server side, username, its string, and it's required when you create user, also with age, its number and it's required, and array of strings in field hobbies. All requests to non-existing endpoints should be handled. You should send not found code and some human-friendly message. What do I mean by human-friendly message? I mean it should be human readable, and it shouldn't be just exposure of raw error. So you have to send a message like route you requested doesn't exist, or something else. Also, you have to safely handle all errors on server side during processing of the request. Your application shouldn't crash. You just have to respond with status code, internal server error, and the corresponding human-friendly message. For example, with message internal server error, it's understandable. Also, your application should be configurable, and you have to get value of port on which application is running from .env file. Also, you have to implement two modes of running application: development and production. In development mode, you use nodemon, and you run application using script start dev. And in production mode, you have script start prod. You have to build your application using Webpack or TypeScript compiler, and you should run your application from this build. Also, you should implement test cases for your APIs, not less than 3 scenarios. It's like integration tests. for example, you can get records. Here is example of scenario. You could use it as one of those three that you have to implement. For example, you get all users and expect empty array. After that, you send post request and create user. Then you get this user by ID and you receive your created user. Then you update it and see updated user in response. Then you delete it, and then you try to get this user and have not found status code. It's just logical. Also, we could implement horizontal scaling for application. You have a load balancer on main port, which is for thousands. For thousands, it's not hard-coded value. Your initial port should be taken from .env still, but next you have to increase value for workers on one number. And here's example how it should work. If you will test it using load balancer, so your application should work the same way, and your integration test should pass, because state should be consistent for different workers. This is your task, how to achieve this. There are a couple of ways how you can do it. We also have a small demo for this task. Let me run it. So let's provide let's install dependencies. Let's provide port value in .env file. Port will be equal to 4000, and let's run our application. Server is running on port 400. Okay. You can test your API using Postman. For example, we provided here wrong road, and we have this message: resource that you requested doesn't exist, because we have no handling for user endpoint. We have only users, right? API users. It's actually weird that we get this. Okay, probably something is wrong with demo. API users, sorry, let me check my demo. It seems to be a little bit outdated, but it's okay. I will just rerun it. This road was named differently. API users. Host users. Okay. Okay, it seems that in demo I didn't implemented this correct path. I mean API users, but it works with just users. Let's imagine that we have this API in URL, but still. Okay, for now, we send this request and we've got empty array and status 200, which means okay, we successfully received users and we have no users. If we will try to get user by some ID, we will receive bad request status because our UID is invalid. We shouldn't even search for user. Let's generate random valid UID. By the way, we can do it using crypto API random UID. I can even share with you process of creation of this. Random UID. Okay. Let's copy it and put it here. Our UID is valid, so we were trying to search for user and we didn't found it, and we receive status code not found and message person is not found. You should have user is not found here. Also, we will receive the same response if we will try to delete non-existent user. We can also try to create user by using post response. For that, we need to send corresponding data, name, some name, property age, which is considered to be number. And for example, let's add some hobbies, which is considered to be array of strings, and probably our user likes to play soccer. Okay, we've got response with status code created, and it has ID, which is generated on server side. So we can try to get this user by ID, and we should receive it. So I think it's pretty clear how it should work. All stuff mentioned here. What else? Probably this is it. You can ask your questions related to this task in chat. Should data of saved update user be stored in file? No, it's in memory. If the student's works, which I will check, doesn't meet requirements of consistency of the database between work, it's hard to evaluate it if there are no penalties for it. You should consider workers' stuff as implemented partially, because this is partial implementation of workers. You have score for this. It's not forfeit, it's just incorrect implementation. So he will receive 25 points instead of 50. What is proc file? Oh, this is stuff for deploying it. Should we do request validation? Yes, you should for cases mentioned in assignment. For example, in order to check that you received correct UID, you have to try to validate it. This is your validation. You have here requirement for username, right? You have to check that it's present, that it's a string, it's not a number, or it's not empty, it's not null. Same for age, same for hobbies. It should be array of strings or empty array. It shouldn't contain numbers. Yes, this is in scope of what you should do for status code bad request. Where you have status code bad request, you need to perform validation. Do you have any other questions related to CRUD API, or we can proceed with basic testing? Sorry, but why do you need this package to clear build folder? I'm not sure where you want to use it. You know, as far as I remember, it wasn't mentioned, so maybe you just overwrite your build, or you can clear it using pure Node.js API. In general, yes, but I don't think we have to all these utils if you can avoid its usage. Okay, we have like 3 minutes for current task. If you use webpack, config output clear true would be better. What means to store in memory? It means that you have you store it in your RAM, but if we will avoid complicated explanations, you just can create array, and you can store values here. So when your application is shut down, your memory is clear, and when you will rerun your application, you will not have your stored users. Just Google in-memory database. As far as I remember, it's configurable on TypeScript level 2, and you can provide options to TypeScript compiler, and you can provide specific webpack options if you want. So anyway, you can avoid usage of rimgraph. You have enough libraries and dependencies. Okay. You have one more assignment for this week. Don't be scared, because basic testing is pretty easy. You just have to write a couple of simple tests using Jest API. What is your assignment? You should fork a repository and write solutions inside of SRC folder. You have two commands, npm run test, which run tests in silent mode, so your console logs will not be put into your process std.out, as you know now. And you have verbose script that will not run in silent mode. Once again, we use 18 version of Node.js. We want to avoid tests that are longer than 30 seconds. In general, your tests should be much faster, but at least try to not make them longer than 30 seconds. Okay, let me share my screen with repository with this task. I'm pretty sure that I saved it. Basic testing. Okay. By the way, I made a couple of fixes to this repository, so please update from master repository if you already forked this, or you can just delete your fork and create it from scratch if you don't know how to update from fork repository. Just in case, this is just another remote repository that can be used to get updates from it. So in first task, you need to implement, you have code that is tested in index.ts file, and in index.ts file, you have empty test cases with descriptions, and you should write your tests here, and you will check that tests are implemented correctly using cross-check. So, for example, for first case, we have a function simple calculator, which received some input. It's A, B, and action. You check your input in runtime, because user can provide, let's imagine that user can provide anything here, and we want to work with this stuff only if it's valid. Otherwise, we should return null. If we have two numbers and we have valid action, we perform operation based on input. We have add, subtract, multiply, divide, and exponentiate. And you have corresponding table tests. You have to correctly add two numbers, you have to subtract two numbers, multiply, divide, exponentiate, return null if action is invalid, and return null for invalid arguments. For example, you can check what's going on is input valid. You check that your action is one of the permitted actions that are listed in this enum, and you check that both A and B are numbers. So, and if action is valid and if arguments are valid, you consider input is valid as well. Also, it's in TypeScript. There are no difficult features of TypeScript. Some basic stuff like types, interfaces, enums, typecasts, and so on. In second task, you need to do the same, but you have to write in it using different code style. You have to write it using table-driven tests, and Jest has API for this. You can read the Jest documentation how to do this. In next subtask, you have a couple of functions. You have asynchronous functions that resolve value. You have synchronous functions that throws errors. The throw error, you have functions that throw specific error, custom error, and you have functions that reject error asynchronously. And you have corresponding tests. You need to check that your function resolves value. You need to check that function throw error with provided message. You need to check also that if you don't have this message, you have to throw error with oops message. What else? You have to check that your function throw custom error throws specific error. I mean, word custom in test case title is intentionally here. It's on purpose because you need to check that specific error is thrown, and just allows you to do so. And also you need to check that your asynchronous function rejects this specific error. You have a class that represent bank account, and you have a couple of operations. Part of methods reuse different method inside. For example, for method transfer, you do withdraw and you do deposit for different account. Same with synchronize balance. We have fetch balance, and if it's successfully fetched, we set it to balance. And we have a couple of errors, and you see that it's already exported, so you can use it for testing. You just shouldn't change what is exported in files, but you can import everything what is exported in files in test files. Also, Jest has API for mocking modules partially, so you can, for example, mock specific function in module and use real implementation of other functions. So you have simple task here. You need to mock these three functions, and you need to not mock this function at the same time using Jest API. You have in 6 subtask, you have this task that uses some Node.js APIs. For example, this subtask reads file asynchronously. You know all these methods. Also, you have functions that uses set timeout and set interval APIs, and you have to test this properly as well. You have some hints here. You already have Jest timers API parts. So you should check that your function sets timeout with provided callback and timeout, and you need to check that your function calls that callback after timeout, specifically after this timeout. And also you need to check a function do stuff by interval, that it was initiated properly and that it was called multiple times after multiple intervals. You can read Jest documentation how to do it. And also read file asynchronously. You should check how you can mock all these native APIs and check that your function works internally fine. What else do we have here? Tests should be separated. I mean, you shouldn't rely on real file system. You shouldn't even call real file system APIs. So you can not have files, available files at all, but your tests should work according to the first principles. What else? We have some libraries APIs that could be mocked and tested as well. For example, we have Axios that performs GET request, and this Axios, this function that uses Axios client is throttles, and you need to check that instance initiated correctly, that you perform request to correct URL, and you return response data. And Jest has API for snapshot testing. You have this generate linked list function, which generate linked list, and it's a deeply nested object. You can test it two ways. You should check it inside of the test, and for second test case you should check match by comparison with snapshot using just snapshot API. That's basically it. What is scored? I've seen a few questions related to this task. You have +6 for each test case that is implemented correctly, +3 for each test case that is implemented incorrectly, and 0 if test case is not implemented at all. So try to implement something, because at least you will be able to get +3 points. What is considered to be implemented incorrectly? For example, you should test what's described in title. If your function should return null if one of arguments is negative numbers, if your test case content is not related with test case's title, your test considered to be incorrect. For bad example, we have a test that has information that it should return null if one of arguments is negative number, but we didn't provide negative number, so this test will pass, but this test is not correct. Good example is to provide one of the arguments as negative number and expect null. If your tests gives you false positive results, I mean, if you change significantly or break functionality that is tested, but your test is still passed, so in this case, your test is flaky test and it's implemented incorrect as well. I have this synthetic example here because it's seen better on more complex examples, but for example, we have a function isEven, which checks whether a number is even and returns yes or no. And if we will check it correctly, we will check for a specific string, and if we will just check that our function returns string, so it will not break even if we will return empty string or some incorrect value. Also, your test should be stable, because multiple runs shouldn't produce same test results. Your test shouldn't be passing or failing depending on number of runs. And your test should be isolated. So tests with Axios shouldn't perform real requests. Test with file system API shouldn't read real files, and so on. This also ensures that your tests will be stable. Also, you have scripts linked, built, and if you will have errors and warnings, you will have forfeit -5 points for each linter warning and -10 points for each linter or TypeScript compiler error. And you have your general forfeit for breaking deadline. That's it. You can change linter config and you can change TS compiler config if you need it, but you shouldn't have errors there. Okay, that's probably it with this task. Fetch balance should return number in case if request did not fail. Need a hint. How to ensure request didn't fail? Mock lodash random. As far as I remember, it doesn't use lodash random. Sorry. Oh, it uses. Yes, your tests should cover both cases, and you shouldn't rely on random. So yes, you need to control what your random returns. So you need to mock lodash random. This is correct way to make this test stable. For second test suite, how much test will be there? For second test suite, you need to implement the same tests that you have here. So here you have 7 test cases, and you need to cover these 7 test cases here. I mean, it's not about number of these records, right? It's about that everything that is tested inside of these test cases is tested here. So it's considered as having 7 test cases, as I mentioned. Should we mock whole Axios altogether with Axios instance? How to say? You have descriptions of test cases, what you need to check, and you need to check that not only proper request performed, that you also need to check that you created instance with correct base URL. You can do it any way you want, but you need to check these cases. Okay. I have to mention here regarding fifth test, should we mock implementation? This question was asked. There is no mention anywhere to use type module for this task. Is it necessary? Nope, it's not necessary because it's TypeScript task, and you control this stuff using tsconfig, and it's related with JavaScript stuff. So it will be 7 tests. It can be, and I believe it should be only one table test. Yes, you don't. Okay, sorry. There is some misunderstanding. You should have one table test. I mean, you should call a corresponding jest API once. You don't need to have separated test cases. But all logic that is implemented here should be implemented here and should be listed in those test cases. And you will have one call of jest API for handling these test cases, and it will be scored as 7 tests if it's implemented correctly. Yes. That's basically it. Okay. It seems that we discussed our homework. We introduced 2 new tasks. You have 1 week for it. So if you don't have more questions, we'll see you in a week. That's basically it. Okay. Thank you for your activity as well. Thank you for sending your homeworks from review. It's chosen randomly. Unfortunately, you can see that review is quite long because tasks are not one-liners. So I review only one homework per stream because we already spent 2 hours on this stuff. Okay. Have a nice rest of the day. See you. Bye.